Hello guys, so this is part 2 of the 22 major arcanas that are in the traditional 78 tarot card decks. So this video is basically to explain to you the story and the links between those remaining cards that constitute the 22 major arcanas. So we left ourselves in the previous video with the 11th card of those major arcanas, which was the Justice card. And we keep going with the Hangman. Oh, other side. Hangman. So the Hangman is technically the first real obstacle that the Fool is gonna meet in his journey. No matter how determined he is to keep going on his path, he realizes that some of his objectives and dreams are kind of slow to coming to fruition. I mean, not everything is happening as fast as it would like to be. So this card symbolizes this kind of like in between time where you're kind of waiting for your objectives to realize, and you're kind of like deciding if you want to keep going on to pursue them or if you're gonna give those up. So it's the first time that the Fool comes to really put himself and his decision back into question. Okay, is he gonna succeed in what he wants to do? Why is this happening? Why are things so slow to come to fruition? Should he give up or should he keep pursuing his dreams and his objective? So where exactly is the line between perseverance and holding on too long to something that is not serving you anymore? Where is the line between passion and obsession? So this is, what this card reminds you if this shows up into the deck. It reminds you that sometimes it's good to look back at things and look back, or should I keep going? Why is this taking so long to happen? What's the reason behind this? Am I doing everything that I can here? And this waiting time is also good to study the notion of compromise. Sometimes in order to things keep going forward and get out of this waiting period, you need to make concessions, and sometimes some project needs to be abandoned, not because you gave up, not because you didn't give it your all, but because you realize that you're basically holding on for nothing and that those projects are not serving you anymore. So after this card, well, it's kind of logical that the Death card follows, because in his journey, the Fool is going to come to confront the end of certain things. Because unfortunately, not all your projects, not all your dreams are meant to happen, and there is a reason behind this. But it's not because some things are ending that it's the end of everything. No, some things are ending to allow other things to enter your life. And this is what the Death card is about. It's about ending something, but ending something so there can be a renewal, so something else can move forward. Okay, a lot of people see the Death card as a really negative card, but no, I see it as a time to, yes, end something, but the reason that this needs to end, that sometimes you need to give up your objectives or your project, is because something else is waiting for you to make space for it. And this is what the Fool is going to do. He's going to take this death as an opportunity to start over and to renew and modify some of his objectives to, have even better results. But it is really important to make sure that you do not develop a tendency to just give up and self-sabotage yourself and give up something at the first obstacle that you encounter. This is not what it is about. It's about letting go something that is not serving you. It's not about giving up because you don't want to put in the efforts. So the Death card for me is actually a good occasion for renewal, to kind of like let new opportunities enter your life. Because when there's like an emptiness that creates itself in your life, it's actually something that the universe is going to fill with something that's even better. And this is what death, teaches to the fool that sometime in life you have to let go of things for better things to come into your life. And this brings the fool to meet the temperance. So the temperance is about, realizing that when you want to rebuild something after an ending, you sometimes need to take your time to do it. So when you want to rebuild, you want to have strong foundations, right? To be able to rebuild in a better way than previously. And this is what the temperance is going to teach the fool. The temperance is going to teach him to do things well, to be thorough, to be patient when he wants to do things, to not just want to rush everything because he wants everything to happen quickly. No, because sometimes you need to really take your time in order to build a really strong foundation and to refine a new balance in your life after having, let go of something. So it's really the temperance. When the temperance shows up in your, in your spread, it's basically a sign that sometimes you need to take things slow, okay? You need to make sure that when you start again, you're going to be 110% ready, and that this time is going to be the right time. But temperance is also a period to put yourself back into question while you're rebuilding things. And this what leads to the 15th card, the devil. So after all the deceptions that the fool had to go through with the death card, the fool decides to take this rebuilding time to really ask himself what it is he wants in his life, what it is he needs in his life to be happy and be satisfied. Okay, the devil is not only a negative card, because the devil actually teaches the fool how to express his emotions, his desire, and his needs so he can avoid future deceptions, okay? The devil is going to really help the fool connect himself to his deeper instincts and his deeper needs so he can identify the best way for him to achieve happiness. So, we all know the devil is also a trickster, is also a deceiver. But the devil can also teach the fool how to communicate his needs and desire, because this is what the devil is about, needs and desire. It's also a warning because, you don't want to go back into, selfish patterns or, deceptive patterns, again, that you may have in the past. So the devil is also this warning card for the fool to, yes, acknowledge what he wants and needs, but to not go to extremes to get what he wants and needs, to not go into trickery, to not go into deception, and to not go back into old patterns that were not serving him to. Because sometimes it can be easy to verse into temptation and manipulation to achieve what we want, but this is not the good way. And this is also what the devil symbolizes, this warning to not go over to the extreme when looking to achieve, and looking to get what we want in life. And this is what leads the fool to the tower. Okay? Because if the devil is there to help the fool identify his limits and how to adopt new behaviors that are gonna, permit him to achieve his goals, the devil also has the possibility to destruct when you go into like this over trickstery and manipulative state. And after getting the teachings he needed from the devil, and now that the fool is really aware of what he needs and what he desires, he has all the tools possible to make the necessary changes in his life. And this is what the tower is about, okay? Changes, big changes, okay? We're not talking about small little tweaks in your life. We're talking about major changes. When I always say when someone has a tower moment, it's because something just crumbled And now it's time to rebuild the tower on stronger foundation. So really the whole journey, the whole fool's journey from the hangman to the tower is really about obstacles, letting go, identifying what you need and want, destroying what you don't need and want anymore, and rebuild it using the temperance teachings that the fool previously had in his path. So for me, the tower is a really profound change that, yes, can be sometimes really brutal, but that in the long term, in the long perspective, is going to be really good for your life. And this is what the fool come to realize in his journey, that sometimes changes are good. Changes can be, yes, really disappointing. Sometimes it can be sad, heartbreaking, but changes are opportunities to start again with a fresh blank slate. And this is what the fool learns in this step of his journey, that all changes are opportunities to do something better. And this is what leads us to the star. The star is basically the card of hope. After all those changes, all those obstacles, for the first time since then, the fool perceives this light at the end of the tunnel, and this light is the star. It's the hope for a better life. It's the hope for a better future. And, for the first time after this, darker period in his path, the fool finally realizes that because he followed his intuition, because he took in the teaching that his journey was, bringing him, he realized that all this was happening for a good reason. And he finally sees the first light and the first shred of inner peace with the star. Okay, so when you see the star in your tarot spread, it's really a sign that the path that you're taking right now is the good one, and that you should keep going into this direction, because it's obviously what's going to bring you the most happiness in your life. So now that the fool finally saw this light, finally realized that he was on a good path, he keeps moving forward on his journey and his life, and that is what leads us to the moon card. So the moon is like this light in the night, okay? It's the light that guides us in the night when everything else is dark, when everything else is uncertain, okay? Because we're all human, and the fool is too. So like all other individuals in his quest to happiness, the fool also has doubts, okay? Because he cannot stop rethinking sometimes about his past failures, and that's totally normal. And this is what this card represents. It represents, yes, light in the darkness, but also the doubts. Because, yes, there's a light that, basically lights up the path, but with light in the night, there are also shadows. And those shadows are all the doubts that can be, and it can be sometimes so tempting to leave the main path and go see what is lurking in the shadows. So with this card, the fool discovers the power of his imagination. Because when you see what's ahead of you, you know what to expect. But when you don't see whatever is in the shadow, that's when your imagination starts creating stories in your head of what those shadows could be. And sometimes those stories can be even more damaging than the real facts. Okay, imagination is a powerful tool. And this is also what this card reminds us, that imagination can be deceptive sometimes. Okay, it's a question of finding the right balance between light and dark, and to use our mental force to stay on the light and path and not be tempted by the shadows, to not be tempted by those stories that we create in our imagination. So the fool with this card needs to learn to stay on the main path and to persevere, because what comes after night, well, comes the sun. And the sun basically is the happiest card of the 22 major arcanas. Okay, it's like the realization of all of your dreams. Okay, happiness is finally back into your life. It's the sign that everything is now gonna go well. All doubts are gone. You made it. You persevered. You did all you needed to do, and now the sun is basically this, the sign that everything is gonna be well for you. When the fool finally sees the sun, he knows that he's in a good position, that his capacities are gonna be enough to achieve his dreams, to realize his projects. He's not only confident about his project, but this confidence is also inspiring others. Okay, the sun is also about this radiating light that you emit when you're really vibing high, when you're confident in your capacities, and this confidence is contagious. So the sun is a sign that your journey is almost ending. Okay, the final objective is almost there. The only thing that the fool still needs to do is to stay where he's heading, to keep going forward. And that brings us to the judgment. Okay, after all this journey, the fool is reaching the end of his path, the end of the journey, and his success is within reach. I mean, he knows that his projects are gonna succeed, but there is still that last step that he needs to do. He needs to take a final decision regarding his project and his objectives. I mean, is whatever he achieved so far enough, or does he needs more? Does he still wants to keep going and renew the journey? Where does he want to go with all this? Okay, so the judgment is basically, when this shows in your tarot spread, it means that you are going to be called to judgment. Okay, you are going to be called to make one final decision. Are you staying where you're heading, or do you want to go somewhere else? And the decision is entirely up to you. Okay, but sometimes it's really good to remind yourself that it's not always the easiest path that is going to be the most rewarding and fulfilling. So this card can also be the difference between, plain success or even higher spiritual activation. And again, this decision is not always easy to do. And this is what the fool realizes, that even though he succeeded at everything, there is still this one final decision to do. And it's really up to him to use all the teachings that he had during his journey to make the right decision for him. And that leads us to the last card of the major arcanas, the World. So the World is basically the card representing not only the final success that the fool has achieved in his journey, but all the possibilities that are still there for him. I mean, yes, it's the end of a journey. He accomplished something. He succeeded in his objective and in the pursuit of his dreams. But the fool also realizes that there is still so much to learn, so much to explore, so much to experience. And that's the beauty about life. Because remember, the cards, the major arcanas, are the fool's journey, but it's also the story of life. And it's not because in life you realize, one of your objectives, it's not because you succeed in something that's the end, because there's always something else that you can do. Because in the end, we will never have enough of one life to experience everything. So when the World shows up in your tarot spread, it's the sign that there are so many opportunities offering themselves to you. Okay, you just need to grab one and start the journey again. Because this is what life is. It's a never-ending, beautiful journey, and which each steps, it's a possibility for you to reach an even higher state. Okay, so this is it for the 22 major arcanas. In my next videos, we are gonna explore a bit more about numerology and how to read the minor arcanas of the 4 suites that still compose the 78 traditional tarot deck. Okay? I love you guys and see you soon.